Hey there YouTube, this is Showcase Watches. Thank you for joining me. For all the regular viewers of the channel, I appreciate your patience. I've been missing in action for some time. As most of you know, we've been busy making babies, my wife and I, so I've been off the air for about 3 months. But now, thankfully, I am back, accustomed to family life and raring to go with more watches. So today I'm doing a video about the Omega Speedmaster. This is the Ed White, the Calibre 321 Ed White. Now, a lot of the guys who follow the channel, you guys knew I was on the waitlist for this watch. I was promised it by my Omega AD that it would be delivered in May, and they were good to the word. I got the watch in May, paid retail for the watch, and here it is. The idea of me getting it in May was to commemorate the birth of my son, which thankfully I got it in time for. In fact, literally a couple of days before he was born, so it was impeccable timing. So I'll just give you a quick outline of what this watch is before I jump into it. Now, I'm not going to talk about the history of the Moonwatch. That has been done to death. I would be regurgitating other YouTube channel content, so there'd be no purpose in me doing that. If you're looking for some content surrounding the history of the Moonwatch, there is a lot of channels. You know, just type in Omega Speedmaster Professional, Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch, whatever. Most of them go into the history. So I'm not going to bore you with that right now. Most of you will probably, if you're looking at this video about the Ed White, you probably already know it. So this watch in question is the Omega Speedmaster. It is just the Speedmaster. It's not the Professional. It is the the reference is 311304030010001 with a recommended retail price of £11,950. That is of the 6th of July 2021. This is a 39.7mm case. So it's the 39.7mm case. It has 19mm between the lugs. It's a 50 meters water resistance and powered by the legendary 321 movement. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to talk about the watch, show you the watch, give you my impressions of the watch. I am not a watchmaker, so there would be no point of me pretending to be knowledgeable about the movement. All I can do is report to you from an enthusiast's perspective, give you my idea of the watch. I have owned many Speedmasters, so how does this one compare? And also just a little bit of content to how good this watch is, which I'll get into later. So the Omega Speedmaster 321 Ed White. This has been a watch that I waited over a year on a wait list to get. Now, bearing in mind, guys, that to Rolex, I am scum of the earth. They do not want to know me at Rolex. I have been banned from my Rolex authorized dealer. But to Omega, I still have a good name, and Omega look after me very, very well. I get gifts at Christmas, and I get good discounts, and Omega have been a very good brand to me. So I was wanting to report on this watch. So it's the Omega Speedmaster Ed White, the Calibre 321. Now, to get some of the basics out of the way, so it's the sapphire crystal. So there is not a Hesalite glass version available in this. It is just the sapphire crystal. It has a ceramic bezel. It's got the stepped dial, much like the new 3861 Speedmaster Professional. So it's the step dial. It's got the dot over 90. It's got the applied marker. So I'm just going to wind the watch, and I'll get the seconds hand out the way just so that I can show you. So you can see there is the applied marker, and I'll leave the ticker going. You can see on the bezel, on the bracelet, it is a absolutely beautiful vintage inspired flat bracelet. Now this one is very, very vintage inspired, going back all the way to the early 70s. But with the modern build quality, and this is absolute perfection. We first saw this bracelet actually appear on the Omega Speedmaster Professional, the 50th anniversary, in both the gold and in the sorry, no, beg your pardon, it wasn't in the gold. It was actually only in the Omega Speedmaster Professional 50th anniversary Apollo 11. It wasn't in the gold variant of that watch. It was just in the steel. So it's an absolute beautiful bracelet. I have owned that watch. and the bracelet was, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the watch. It is pure fluid. It is the most comfortable bracelet Omega have ever made, and in my opinion, the best bracelet Omega have ever made. Absolute pure perfection. You can see, like I said, the dial, very, very legible. The 39.7mm case is perfect, literally just perfection. It's the perfect size. I was worried, genuinely worried, it'd be a little bit on the small side for me. Generally speaking, 40mm watches, my Rolex, I have to have the super case because I'm a bigger guy. But no, the 39.7mm case fits like a glove. It's absolutely perfect. It wears very similar to the 3861, the latest Speedmaster that's brought out. The 3861 is a 42mm case, but thanks to how the lugs taper away, and thanks to how the bracelet tapers flat down, they wear very, very comfortable and a lot smaller. So this watch is just a dream to wear. It's so comfortable. It's got a beautiful vintage-inspired clasp. If there is any scratches on the watch, guys, I apologise. I have been wearing the watch, so it's not perfect. But the clasp is vintage-inspired with the twin deployant. You haven't got any on-the-fly adjustment, but what you do have is the two pins. Sort of a traditional, what Rolex did, what Omega have done. It's a very traditional type bracelet, and you can just see you pushed it in there and it'll adjust to the second. So you've got two adjustments on the clasp. So it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but it's enough. Because the links in the bracelet are quite small, you can, with adding or removing links and adjusting on the clasp, you can size this watch very, very well. Far better than the Calibre 1861 Professional, which a lot of people have issue with, and actually better than the 3861 as well, because I found the 3861 a little bit difficult to get a perfect fit, and I wasn't keen on the 3861 how when you adjust it on the clasp, how the bracelet, it just has a little extension piece that comes out, which doesn't quite look finished to me. But no, Omega have done an absolute superb job on the clasp of this watch. Perfectly goes beautifully with the bracelet. It's brushed in the centre and polished on the outer, as is the bracelet. So it gives a lovely continuity to the bracelet and the clasp. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's a milled clasp, stainless steel, and it's got a very satisfying click to it. So when it is on the wrist, it is secure. It's not going to come away. If you press one of the buttons and try and pull it, it will not open. You need to press both. So it's a very secure bracelet, and a beautiful vintage inspired logo. That is the vintage Omega logo. Period correct to the 1960s and 70s. So a nice little touch. Going back to the case of the watch, we actually have the straight lugs. We don't have the twisted lugs on this one like you do on the Speedmaster Professional. You actually just have the straight lugs, which you will see on such as the, if you were to look at say the 1957 trilogy, you'll see it on the Seamaster and the Speedmaster in there from 1957. This is the vintage case. This doesn't have the twisted lugs of the Professional, which I really like, because the twisted lugs, ironically enough, is one of the features of modern Omega, which I'm not that keen on. Whereas because these are the straight lugs, they're just absolutely beautiful. Now, what Omega have done very, very well here is on the sapphire crystal. Now, as many of you will know, the sapphire crystal on the Professional often, well, always had the milky ring around the edge. Not on the 321 and not on the 3861 either. They've actually managed to find a way of putting the sapphire crystal on without having the milky ring. That was a feature of the 1863 Professional, which is the sapphire crystal version of the Professional. The Calibre 1861 was the Hesalite. The 1863 was the decorated version with the sapphire caseback. So no, Omega have done a fantastic job with the sapphire crystal. It is domed, so it does have that vintage aesthetic, but you have the scratch resistance with the sapphire crystal, so you can wear this watch as a daily watch with no issues whatsoever. And as I said, because the ceramic bezel is there as well, you've got no fears of scratching this watch up. Like, with the Speedmaster Professionals, you can scratch them, you can damage them, they're easy to chip. With this one, it gives you the modern build, it gives you the modern wearability. You don't have the worries. You know, why would somebody spend nearly £12,000 on this watch? Probably because they want the vintage watch, but they don't want the vintage headaches. So you've got all the vintage charm, but without any of the headaches. You've got all the modern build quality in a vintage inspired watch. So it's absolute perfection. It's got the pushers. So you've got the start, stop here, and then the reset. And these are, obviously they have the, you know, no guard. So they are just the same as the 1960s. Well, from the 1957 onwards. It wasn't until they went onto the professional did they actually put the crown guards on, because it was a request by NASA to do so, because NASA found with these that they were actually the astronauts were bending the pushers. So with the professional model, they actually put the guards on to you know, try and prevent that from happening. And then turning the watch over, coming to the absolute jewel of the crown of this watch. There it is, the Calibre 321. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I am no watchmaker, so I'm not going to pretend to have heaps of knowledge in this area. I'm not going to just regurgitate what I've read. All I know is the 321 is the grail of grails for Omega collectors and Speedmaster collectors, and it is an absolute thing of beauty. I mean, look at that. Now, ordinarily, I'm not a huge fan of the display casebacks, because quite often, I mean, take the latest releases from Tudor. You know, Tudor have put a sapphire caseback on a movement where there's nothing to see. It's just a wasted exercise to me. Most Omegas, you know, the Planet Oceans, the Seamasters, etc., they now have the sapphire casebacks, which is cool. You know, it gives you something to look at if you're bored. There isn't a great deal to see, because on most automatic watches, of course, you'll just see the rotor. Whereas on this, a manual wind chronograph, there is no rotor. You can see the watch in its skeleton form. It is an absolute thing of beauty. I mean, look at that. I mean, how can you get bored of looking? I could literally take this off and watch that movement ticking away for hours, and you will learn something new every time you do it. And especially if you have a little loop handy, something to look at the movement with. Even the loop has the little the bezel, the same as the watch. But that movement is just absolutely beautiful. So again, if I can turn it around, we've got the start-stop mechanism there. And then again to stop it, and to reset. Absolutely beautiful. Now, the Calibre 321 is a historic movement. It is the grail of grails when it comes to Omega watches. It is the grail when it comes to the Speedmasters. And if you were to ask any Omega Speedmaster fan their favourite movement, they would say 321. It is the watch that was won. It is the movement that was won on the moon by Buzz Aldrin. It's the Calibre 321, guys. It's just super, super cool. It is the NASA certified movement. Now, these watches are in great demand, and the supply on them is extremely limited. There is only 2,000 of these movements made by Omega per year. They have 6 watchmakers in a specialist unit of Omega, a custom-made unit of Omega, to make this movement. Now, there's only 2,000 movements being made, and that is shared between this, the Calibre 321 Ed White, and the Platinum Speedmaster Professional. I mean, if you were to put rough guesses, you could say there's probably maybe 1,000 Ed Whites made per year. Think how many tens of thousands of Omega fans are wanting this watch. So this watch is without doubt probably one of the rarest luxury chronographs around, from a build perspective. I just look at that; it's absolutely beautiful. And this is, you don't even have to own this watch to wear it. You can own this watch to own a work of art. I'm an Omega fanboy, I always have been, and to own a 321 Ed White is just next level cool. It really is just next level. It's beautiful. Now, I have no doubt that one day the 321 will make its way back into the Amiga Speedmaster Professional. I think they will release a 42mm Amiga Speedmaster Professional with the Calibre 321. I have no doubt that will happen. It will no doubt start with a limited edition and then go into a production model. It will be limited, it will be difficult to get, it will be expensive. The Ed White certainly isn't the end of the Calibre 321. I think Amiga are possibly just getting started on this one, and I have no doubt they'll employ more watchmakers, they'll employ more people to do the work. I have no doubt of that. But on another point with this watch, one thing I will say is, and I made a video a couple of days ago, so check it out, about tool watches. Now, people wear these watches and they look after them because obviously they're expensive. I feel in this modern day and age, we are possibly babying these watches a little bit too much. We're not wearing them to the full potential. We're not enjoying them to the full potential. When I did the video and I got some comments, and a lot of people said in the comment section that they agree, we don't wear these watches as tools. And why not? Because think about it. These watches, these Amiga Speedmasters, are still in existence from the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s and onwards. They've survived 50, 60 years of wear and tear, and that was with vintage build quality. Now, with modern build quality and modern materials, you could argue that these watches will last 50, 60, 70 years onwards. They're going to last a lifetime, guys, and they're a watch that you can hand down to the next generation without any concern. So I have taken the decision to shrink my collection significantly, and these three pieces you see in front of you, my Submariner Hulk, my Rolex GMT Batman, and my Ed White, are my three core pieces. There are other pieces in my collection which will swap and change. There will be pieces come in, there'll be pieces go out. I have no doubt of that. But these three pieces are the keepers. These are the ones that will not leave me. These are the core collection. Dive watch, the Submariner is the dive watch of dive watches. The Rolex GMT, there is no GMT watch that would compete with the GMT. There's plenty of watches that will compete with a Submariner. There's none that will compete with the GMT. And when it comes to a chronograph, as many of you know, I owned, up until recently, the Rolex Daytona Panda. And I owned the Panda and I owned the Ed White together at the same time. And it took me 2 months to decide which watch I loved the most and which watch I was going to keep. And I came to the conclusion that the reason I loved the Panda so much was it was the snob factor. The inner snob in me knew that it was a rare watch. It knew that it was an investable watch. And I was owning the watch for all the wrong reasons. I wasn't owning it as a collector. I was owning it to baby the thing, to, I owned it for the sake of owning it, to say, I own a Daytona, you get the kudos for owning a Daytona. Whereas I own the Amiga Speedmaster Ed White to impress myself, not other people. And not only that, you have a Daytona on your wrist. People will knock you over the head to steal a Daytona. This looks like every other Amiga Speedmaster, which realistically every other Speedmaster's, say, about 4,000. The chance of getting robbed for that's a lot slimmer. So this is a bit more discreet. It's a bit more under the radar. But like I said, I do wear these as tool watches. All three of these are worn to their full potential as tool watches. And I watched a very interesting program, and it commented about the Amiga Speedmaster and a advertising that Amiga used to do. This is going back into the 1970s, 1971 to be precise, when Amiga, in the window of their boutiques or their dealers, would have an Amiga Speedmaster sat in a glass of water. And that's because they were promoting the fact that the watch was 50 meters water resistant. Now, most people you will speak to will tell you that Amiga Speedmasters are not waterproof. They will tell you you never swim with an Amiga Speedmaster. You never get an Amiga Speedmaster wet. You remove the watch when you wash your hands. Most people will tell you that. I'm here to tell you that that is rubbish. Yes, it doesn't have a screw down crown, but it is 50 meters water resistant. And I love the thought that in 1971 they had Amiga Speedmasters sat in a glass of water just to prove how water resistant and resilient these watches were. So let me know, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like this watch? Do you like the Omega Speedmaster? Do you rate it as a tool watch? Do you rate it as a work of art? What's your thoughts of the watch? Personally, I'm in love with this watch. All three of these watches you can see here, I'm absolutely in love with. I'm fascinated to know your opinion. So let me know, guys. And just to show, there you go, guys. Just to recreate an old advert. This is Showcase Watches, signing off.